We've all seen the pictures. The endless yellow hallways, the buzzing fluorescent lights, the eerie sense of being somewhere you shouldn't be. The internet calls it the Backrooms, a creepypasta, a meme, a fictional dimension of terror. But what if it's not fictional? What if it's real? What if it's not a place you fall into, but a place you break into? A place designed to twist your mind until you can no longer tell the difference between reality and the endless yellow void. This is the story of Alex and how his attempt to expose a hoax led him to a place far more terrifying than any urban legend. My name is Alex, and before all of this, I was what you might call a professional skeptic. Not a cynic exactly, but I had a knack for sniffing out hoaxes, especially online. From blurry UFO photos to shaky Bigfoot footage, I ran a small YouTube channel dedicated to debunking paranormal claims. It wasn't huge, maybe 50,000 subscribers, but it was enough to make me feel like I was contributing something useful to the digital world. Then came the Backrooms. At first, it was just another weird internet phenomenon. A grainy photo of an impossible yellow office space, a few paragraphs about no clipping out of reality, and an ever-growing lore of levels, entities, and survival guides. It was fascinating, sure, but I saw it for what it was. A brilliant collaborative piece of fiction. A modern creepypasta that had simply exploded. My early videos on the Backrooms were typical debunking fare. I analyzed the architectural inconsistencies, pointed out the obvious photoshopped elements in fan-made images, and interviewed people who admitted to contributing to the lore. They were popular, solidifying my position as the Backrooms debunker. I felt like I had it all figured out. But then something shifted. The community started posting videos. Not just CGI, but what looked like genuine, shaky cam footage of people exploring these spaces. They were dark, disturbing, and often ended abruptly. A few of them even featured alleged entities, shadowy figures or distorted shapes in the distance. My subscribers started asking me to officially debunk these. They seemed too real, they said, too unsettling. I picked one video in particular. It was titled Level 0 Exploration Found Footage, uploaded by a user with no other content, and it had gone viral. The quality was terrible, the camera constantly shaking, and the explorer barely spoke above a terrified whisper. The footage showed classic Level 0, the yellow walls, the wet carpet, the buzzing lights. But there was a detail that caught my eye. A specific stain on the carpet near what looked like a faded company logo on the wall. It was distinct, almost like a spilled coffee cup, but with a strange, jagged edge. My hypothesis was simple. Find the location where these videos were being shot. It had to be an abandoned office building, a set, a cleverly disguised warehouse. If I could pinpoint the real-world location, expose the trickery, I could put the whole Backrooms a real debate to rest permanently. I spent weeks meticulously analyzing the video. I compared the flicker rate of the fluorescent lights, the subtle echoes, even the type of door handles shown in a brief cutaway. Eventually, through sheer stubbornness and a lot of cross-referencing with old architectural plans and satellite imagery, I narrowed it down. An abandoned office complex on the outskirts of my city, slated for demolition but still standing. A relic from the 80s, perfect for mimicking the liminal space aesthetic. I planned my expose carefully. I'd go in, document the location, show how it matched the video, and then reveal the hoax. It would be my biggest video yet. The day I went there, the sky was a dreary, overcast gray, matching my mood. The complex was exactly as I'd imagined, a decaying concrete behemoth, overgrown with weeds, its windows like vacant eyesores. I found a gap in the chain-link fence and slipped through, heart thumping a little faster than usual. It felt like trespassing, which technically it was. The inside was cold and damp, smelling of dust and mildew. Broken glass crunched under my sneakers. I recorded everything, narrating my observations for the camera. "As you can see," I whispered into the mic, "this is clearly just an old building. No strange dimensions here, folks." I navigated the maze of empty offices, my flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. Many of the rooms were gutted, but some still had tattered remnants of cubicle walls, rusty filing cabinets, and the occasional overturned desk. I was looking for that hallway, that carpet stain, that faded logo. And then I found it. It was in a corridor on the 3rd floor. The walls were peeling, but the distinctive yellow paint was still visible underneath. The carpet, though filthy and matted, had that stain. The jagged coffee spill. And on the wall, partially obscured by grime, was the faint outline of a logo. It was a local insurance company that had gone out of business decades ago. "Aha!" I exclaimed, my voice echoing a little too loudly in the silence. "Gotcha. This is it, folks. The smoking gun." I filmed the area from every angle, comparing it to screenshots from the viral video on my phone. It was a perfect match. I felt a surge of triumph. I was about to blow the lid off the biggest internet hoax in years. As I was getting my last shot, something flickered. It wasn't a light flickering. The lights in this building were long dead. It was more like the air itself, a brief, almost imperceptible shimmer, like heat rising from asphalt but indoors. It lasted less than a second. I chalked it up to my eyes playing tricks in the dim light, maybe a dust motes reflecting my flashlight oddly. I finished recording and began making my way back to the exit. The sense of accomplishment was intoxicating. I was already planning the video edit in my head. But then the air flickered again. This time it was stronger, more noticeable. The walls seemed to ripple for a fraction of a second, like a cheap projection. I stopped dead, my blood running cold. Okay, this wasn't right. I shone my flashlight frantically around, nothing, just the decaying office space. My logical brain kicked in. "Alex, you're stressed, you're tired, your eyes are playing tricks." I tried to continue, but a new unsettling feeling started to creep over me. The hallway seemed longer. The echoes of my footsteps were different, and the pervasive smell of dust and mildew was slowly being replaced by something else. Something faint, yet distinct. The metallic tang of ozone mixed with the sickly sweet scent of old damp carpet. And underneath it all, a faint, almost subliminal buzzing. Not an electrical hum, but something deeper, more pervasive, like a swarm of invisible bees behind the walls. My heart hammered against my ribs. I picked up my pace, a frantic urgency replacing my earlier confidence. I had to get out. This was just my mind messing with me. This was the power of suggestion, the very thing I debunked. I rounded a corner I was sure I had passed before, but it didn't look familiar. The same peeling yellow paint, yes, but the fire extinguisher in its casing was gone. The crack in the ceiling was different. A cold knot of dread tightened in my stomach. Panic began to set in. I turned back, retracing my steps. I walked for what felt like an eternity, but every hallway looked the same. Endless, identical. The buzzing grew louder, a pressure behind my ears. The air felt heavy, like static electricity before a storm. "No," I whispered, my voice trembling. "No, this isn't real. This is just an old building." I'm disoriented. I pulled out my phone, desperate for GPS, for a signal, for anything. No signal, just a blank screen. My camera, however, still worked. I started recording again, my hands shaking. "Okay, so, I think I'm a little lost," I forced out, trying to sound calm, but my voice cracked. "It's darker in here than I remember, and the smell is weird." I walked and walked. Every door I tried was locked or led to another identical hallway. The walls began to feel closer. The yellow started to feel less like paint and more like a living thing. A sickly, jaundiced skin stretched over something unseen. The buzzing was constant now. A high-pitched whine that vibrated through the floor and into my bones. My head throbbed. I felt an intense, crushing loneliness unlike anything I had ever experienced. It wasn't just the absence of people, it was the absence of anything else. No birds chirping, no distant traffic, no wind. Just the buzzing and the wet, squelching sound of my own footsteps on the inexplicably damp carpet. I slumped against a wall, my breath coming in ragged gasps. "This is a nightmare," I mumbled, tears stinging my eyes. "I'm dreaming. I have to wake up." I pinched myself. Hard. Nothing. I splashed water from my bottle on my face. It did nothing but make the dryness in my throat worse. Days blurred into an indistinguishable cycle of walking, resting, and the gnawing terror of isolation. My phone battery died. My food ran out. I started to hallucinate. I saw shadows darting in my periphery, heard whispers just beyond the range of understanding. I convinced myself I heard the faint thump-thump of heavy footsteps in the distance, always just out of sight, always just around the next endless corner. Water became my biggest obsession. I found patches on the ceiling where condensation dripped, tasting metallic and foul, but it was water. I licked the walls, hoping for moisture. I became feral, desperate. The most terrifying thing wasn't an entity, though I saw plenty of them in my exhausted state. The most terrifying thing was the sameness. The relentless, unchanging yellow, the never-ending buzz, the damp carpet. It was designed to break you, to strip away your sanity brick by yellow brick. One day, I collapsed. I couldn't walk anymore. My body was screaming, my mind was fractured. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, watching the flickering fluorescent lights, which were definitely on now, casting a sickly, unchanging glow, as they buzzed their eternal, maddening song. And then, a new sound. Faint at first, then growing louder. A child's laughter. It was sweet, innocent, out of place. It echoed down the hallway, seeming to bounce off the invisible walls. My heart, which I thought had given up on feeling, lurched. Hope, or a new form of torment. "Hello," I croaked, my voice a raw whisper. "Is anyone there?" The laughter grew closer. It was a girl's laugh, melodic and clear. I tried to push myself up, to crawl towards the sound, towards a possible exit, a human connection. But then, the laughter changed. It elongated, stretched into a distorted, gurgling sound. It became mocking, predatory. It wasn't a child. It was something else, something mimicking a child. A shadow detached itself from the far end of the hallway. It moved with a jerky, unnatural grace, too fast, too fluid. It was thin, impossibly tall, its head tilted at an angle that no human neck could achieve. Its limbs were too long, ending in sharp, spindly fingers. It paused, its head still unnaturally tilted as if observing me. The distorted laughter filled the air, a chilling symphony of innocence twisted into malice. I could feel its gaze, even though I couldn't discern any features on its dark, featureless face. It was just a shadow, but a shadow with a palpable presence, a hungry intelligence. I froze, paralyzed by a fear that went beyond anything I'd ever known. This wasn't a hoax. This wasn't an abandoned building. This was real. And I was trapped. The entity took another jerky step forward, then another. The laughter intensified, a high-pitched shriek that pierced my eardrums. I closed my eyes, covering my head with my arms, bracing for whatever horror was about to consume me. I don't know how long I lay there, screaming, whimpering, begging for it to end. Eventually, exhaustion, fear, and sheer mental overload dragged me into unconsciousness. When I woke up, the buzzing was gone. The yellow was gone. I was lying on cold, hard asphalt. A gentle rain was falling on my face. Above me, the sky was a familiar, dreary gray. The smell of damp earth and exhaust fumes filled my nostrils. I pushed myself up, my body aching, my head pounding. I was outside the abandoned office complex. The chain-link fence was still breached. My bag, surprisingly, was still next to me. I stumbled out to the road, flagged down a passing car, and somehow made it home. It's been months since then. I haven't uploaded a single video. My YouTube channel is dead. I tried to explain what happened, but the words sound insane even to my own ears. I know, clipped out of reality. I was in the Backrooms. People would laugh. They'd say I finally lost my mind trying to debunk the paranormal, but I know what I saw. I know what I felt. The buzzing. The endless yellow, the loneliness, the flicker, and the laughter. Oh God, the laughter. Sometimes late at night when the house is quiet, I hear it. Faint, distant, but undeniably there. The high-pitched, distorted giggle of a child. And sometimes when I walk into a brightly lit, empty room, I see it for a fraction of a second. A brief, almost imperceptible flicker in the air. And I know with absolute certainty that the Backrooms aren't just a place you fall into. They're a place that remembers you. And they're waiting. Waiting for the next flicker. Waiting for you to break again.